Joining us now is former Tennessee Congressman and Fox News contributor Harold Ford Jr. Thank you for joining us, Congressman. I am not going to ask you to defend policies that I don't think you agree with. So let me ask you about the politics, the perception. It does seem the Biden administration has been slow to appreciate how Americans feel about this issue of crime. But I will give you a chance to tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, first off, happy Sunday. Thanks for having me on. I do think there's a perception challenge that my party has around this issue. I think we are fortunate to have a very powerful and significant voice in Eric Adams here in my home city of New York, where I live and where my kids go to school. I think him being here, the president being here earlier last week, was a positive thing, not only for him politically, but I think substantively. Now, we should be honest about this. The extremes on both sides in each of our parties, unfortunately, dominate and frankly are guiding too much of the conversation. Eric Adams' presence is a welcome one and a refreshing one because I'm hoping he can push through this. But you look at the left, the defunding of the police, the bail reform laws that frankly as well-intentioned as they may have been to ensure that nonviolent offenders didn't spend more time in jail for something that, had they even been convicted of, they may not have spent that much time in, is no excuse for not reforming those laws in light of what we're dealing with now. Defunding the police is one of the dumbest ideas and dumbest political reactions I've heard in the last 25 years. And on the right, whenever we have gun violence and we talk about ghost guns, some on the right are unwilling to even consider. I hear your point, and I agree with you. We should prosecute and use the laws on the books, but we should be serious about this ghost gun thing, I think, a little more than we are. So you have this negligence being practiced on both sides. But we should be clear also, Democrats are the ones who will face the greater political liability heading into an election season because of the list of DAs, the list of things that the administration is or is not doing. I do think that, again, earlier last week was a positive for the administration, but they now have got to act on it. Some of our New York press here didn't think it was that big of a deal, the president coming. I think the New York Post said blah, blah, blah was their headline. But at least there was a visit. And Eric Adams is certainly not going to back down. He, in many ways, is the face of the Democratic Party when it comes to how we're going to address crime and the additional methods and, for that matter, the reforms we're going to make to some of the things that some in our party have been saying for some time around crime.
All right, Congressman, the president did come and he did talk about ghost guns. And for people who are not steeped in federal firearms, that's a gun that's not traceable, either doesn't have a serial number or it's been obliterated, makes it very hard to prosecute it. When I was in the House, all of the rage was about closing the gun show loophole. And my response is, OK, let's get tough on ghost guns. Let's close the gun show loophole. How many killings would that stop? I mean, if ghost guns aren't being used in the crimes, then you're talking about something that is not the root of the problem. Why won't Biden talk? Why won't he get tough on progressive prosecutors? Why won't he get tough on the DA in Los Angeles? That's, from a messaging standpoint, that's my question.
I don't have a good answer to that question, Trey. I think one of the things that if I were in that White House, we'd have FBI task forces in Chicago and Los Angeles and San Francisco, here in New York as well, with men and women on the ground helping the police, tracking these things and providing them with whatever resources they may need. And that should be happening. Look, you know, we go back and forth about the guns and the ghost guns and this and that. But one thing is clear, that the two officers that were killed here last week, that was a ghost gun that had been bought in Philly. That was used by that man that they went into the house to because his mom had called the police on him. So I hear you, and I hope that the messaging in my party, if we don't get it right, Trey, we're not gonna fare well in this election cycle. It's a number 2 issue on people's minds, but I think it's a number 1 issue in households all across the country.
Congressman, I hope he calls you. He'll find a really nice guy and a reasonable voice on the other end of the phone if the president calls you. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday night.